Good morning. I will remove my mask because we have sneeze guards here and we are protected. I'd like to welcome everybody to the March 16th Board of Public Works and Safety meeting. It is approximately 9:01 and I will call it to order. We'll begin with the pledge. Mr. Minnick, if you would lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance. I would like to remind our members and anybody from the public when they speak, if they would speak in front of the microphone. Do I have a motion for approval of minutes?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Public comment. Do we have anybody here from the public that would like to speak? Anybody on
Not
social
yet.
media?
I'll keep an eye on it, Mayor.
Thank you. Clerk Treasurer, claims approval.
Okay. We have payroll in the amount of $414,649.53.
Do I have a motion?
I move we approve the payroll.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
We have civil city claims in the amount of $3,956,207.57, which includes March trash, March health insurance, the demolition of the Tipton property, and a final payment for NPL remediation, Newport Landing remediation.
Do I have a motion?
I move we approve the civil city claims.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion? I just have one concern or thank you or combination. The bid district to help with the sidewalk snow removal on Indiana and Lincoln Way when we built up the snow and had to be removed, $7,500. It seems, I appreciate the effort. It seems a little high on that bid compared to other costs, but we do appreciate the cleanup for the businesses downtown. Besides that, any other discussion? And I would like to thank Thaddeus Cutler for his quick turnaround on making that happen, by the way. So with that, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion passes 3-0.
And then we have, for water claims, we've got $259,582, which also includes March health insurance and then payment in lieu of taxes.
Do I have a motion to approve?
I move we approve the water claims.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
And then finally, we have the sewage claims in the amount of $513,836.48, excuse me, which includes March health insurance, also in lieu of taxes.
I move we approve the sewage claims.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Thank you, Clerk Treasurer
Thank you.
Parthone. Department reports, we do have a full meeting, full agenda ahead, so please, quality, not quantity. And we'll start in-house. Jen Knoll, Human Resources.
issue those now, correct?
Yes, yes.
So,
Which makes sense because you're really the ones that are out there on the street.
I think it's a combination between
Perfect. Thank you.
Good morning. I just wanted to say that last week we reinstated the Take 5 program, so that's going on now. This year, the Parks Department's going to be in charge of implementing.
Bit more. We had a EPA pass-through grant to remove some of the remaining material at Newport Landing, and all those documents are signed and it's kind of in IDEM's hand. So that's a grant of up to $500,000 that IDEM will be managing for us to do some additional contaminated soil removal at Newport Landing.
By the way, I would like to add from Mr. Casey last night, he introduced a sign ordinance so that we can address billboards and the type of signs, and there will no longer be new billboards allowed in the city of LaPorte. So,
unless they seek a variance, Mr. Casey rightfully pointed out that it will be nice to extremely limit those going forward. Current ones are going to be grandfathered in, same with business signs. Limit the size of those, the height of those, so it really be, you know, Mr. Kosher, I know you have to drive down Pine Lake Boulevard to get here. That's just filled with signs. How can we limit that going forward as a main thoroughfare in our community?
So will that include signs that are kind of attached to homes? Or where it's all, I mean,
it will, but it will
Signs
not,
that are-
it will still protect the homeowner's right, whether we like it or not. The profanity on their homes across from the high school, and it still allows them their First Amendment right, even though we don't like and wish the sign would come down, it will still protect them. And we've had numerous complaints about that sign with kids walking to school. and-
Mayor, I was thinking more like there's some along Lincoln Way where it's a business advertisement kind of on a home.
It's, yeah.
Mr. Casey, would you like to address that?
Sure. Mark, those will be limited in size per the new amendment to the ordinance, and also limited in the time period that they can sit out there. For instance, if it's a home improvement company that did a driveway or put windows in and they have a sign out, it's limited to 2 feet by 2 feet, and it can only be there for the period of time that the work is being done. So once the work is completed,
Automotive sign that they've been out of business for over a year at least, and that will require the removal of that sign versus it looks pretty sloppy right now with a business out there and there's still a sign there, or the LaPorte Pantry, that building next to it. that there's a open sign, you can see the lights and so forth, and that will have to be covered based on this ordinance.
If the sign conforms, it would just simply be covered, it wouldn't have to be removed, so, if it's on a building.
Okay.
Bert Cook, LEAP.
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning to the Board of Public Works. Just a quick update from last night's City Council meeting. Pleased to share that we started the process of annexing 215 acres along the southern border of the city. The property we call Rhoda Farms has approached the city with the desire to be annexed in and part of the city limits. It obviously aligns very well with our strategy of growing the city. I'd like to thank the mayor for his work on this. He spearheaded this project from the start. It'll be a large-scale annexation, and we're excited to go through that process. So there's a number of steps that will take place, but those will take place over the coming months. But I did want to make you aware that that is in the works.
And I would just like to say we've been discussing annexation since day one of undeveloped property, and this is a great start. And want to thank Harold Barr and Rhoda Farms for being number one of hopefully many. Tim Werner, Water.
Thank you, Mayor and board members. The last couple of weeks, the water department's been gathering information for our mini infrastructure needs program that we're starting this year. We did sign the first NOI, notice of intent, for a main extension on Lakeside, kind of piggybacking on Jerry's project down there. It's an area that we need to tie in a main with other construction going on there. It just makes sense for us to go ahead and pop that project off at the same time. Our new operator, midnight operator, started last week. He's doing good, falling right into place, learning a lot, and we are still taking apps for maintenance construction position that's open. So if anybody is interested in working for the great water department of the city of LaPorte, we're looking for a few good people. That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Mike Frey's Streets.
We're gonna be out patching and doing road work this week, patching and picking up limbs and stuff, brush.
And Mike, how's the total patch machine working? This is something that this board approved, and as we become pothole-free LaPorte.
It's working good, but we ran a problem with the machine. The element went out, so the parts are on the way to replace the element.
Isn't it brand new?
It is. I assume that's
So is it
under warranty. Mike, I assume that's under warranty?
No, that's on that part. That's on our old machine where we spray it out on the road. The element went out in that, not in the new machine.
Okay. Thank you. Beth West, Transport.
Morning. Things are going good. Our ridership has been increasing. In January, we were averaging about 99 people a week or a month. Now we're up to almost 135. So we're slowly increasing our ridership, which is a good thing. The mayor and I have talked, and we've agreed we're going to start operating on Saturdays come April 1st, or the first Saturday in April, which is April 3rd. And we have been going back to the grocery stores where we were limiting them every day. We're going every day now. It was Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And we were limiting house to house, and we are doing that again. So I think that's what's keeping our ridership up. That's about it.
And Beth and I discussed yesterday, just to give an example, Beth has done a great job leading this team, and this is something that the city puts in $150,000 towards transport. And to move or add Saturday alone, we need a minimum of 100 riders at our current revenue cost for that Saturday alone. So we are going to promote it to increase ridership, but just to break even for Saturday and provide those rides to people that need it, we need 100 rides for that day.
So, Mayor, have we had, when we were doing Saturdays, or have we done Saturdays before?
We have.
So, did we have ridership that was in that neighborhood of 100?
We did not.
Okay.
But we hopefully, with promotion and some new ideas, and Beth is working on alternative or additional rides, working with either hospitals or other transportation services to take rides for dialysis, where the state of Indiana or other groups are paying closer to $25 a ride versus $3.50 a ride. So that's being covered, Beth, wouldn't you say, by hospitals or other organizations?
The numbers that they're transporting,
Correct, or the cost, that number gets up there and,
yeah, the Medicare is paying about $25 a ride for individuals to go, and they're needing alternative sources to be able to transport them because they don't have means to be able to get to where they need to go. So we'd be able to provide that.
which will reduce our requirement to have 100, or goal of have 100 riders, if we can start increasing those costs to from Medicare, because somebody's giving those rides now. Why can't it be transport?
Higher proportion of those rides than lower ridership.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Jerry Jackson, sewer, wastewater.
We've got a lot of projects going, with our Lakeside project, our digester mixing project. We've kicked off the letters and numbers project. They're gonna be doing borings down in the Torino, basin area, to determine how well the soils will handle additional water. And we've kicked off the phosphorus project, sent Denise a whole bunch of information and did a walkthrough to look at the job and start on design. And then the last one, the Truesdale lift station, that project we got to get done by the end of next month. Looks like we're on schedule to do that, but it's kind of tight. Their materials are being delayed. The pumps in particular are being delayed for the lift station because of COVID. So it'll be tight, but we should make that end of April deadline.
Paul Breton, Chief Paul Breton, Police.
Good morning. Just want to say last week on Monday, we picked out the new canine with the new handler. Dog is about 14 months old. His name is Kendi. Very well-mannered dog. The handler will start April 5th with him. 6 weeks of training and variance springs. Also, we offered, our Merit Commission offered a conditional offer of employment to an officer from the Hess Academy. He's from the Wanata area. He's very excited. This will bring us to full staff. We're just waiting for the perf paperwork on the physical, the psych eval. I'm hoping next Board of Works will be able to swear him in. That's probably wishful. Probably be the next one after that.
But Chief, that means he'll be able to start on the road day one.
Right. We'll run him through an FTO program. He previously worked at Porter County, so he knows all the Indiana statutes. He'll just have to learn our local ordinances, the way our courts work here in LaPorte County. But he lives in LaPorte County.
Awesome.
Mark Schreiber, Park Department.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to announce that Beechwood Golf Course will be open for the season on Friday. We'll be observing spring rates, which is $25 with cart during the weekdays, $30 with cart on the weekends. And also want to thank, we had about a dozen volunteers came out to the course on Saturday, helped us clear off the course. Of course, we had that big ice storm back in January, so we had a lot more limbs and branches down than a typical year. So we're on track to open up. And also just wanted to let the public know we are still hiring for seasonal employment, both at Beechwood and with the parks. Makes a great summer job for a high school or college age kid. So we'd like to see some more applications. So we're still taking applications and still hiring.
And I think our very own Mr. Otis was out there helping clean up Beechwood, so thanks to Nick.
No problem.
Andy Snyder, Fire Department.
Good morning, Mayor. Just to let the board know that we did last week take delivery of a new Durango for our support staff that the board approved at the end of last year. And also, we did receive word from the boat manufacturer for our rescue, and that has passed all certifications and is ready to be picked up. Hopefully we'll have that in our possession by the end of the month here.
Thank you. Anybody else? Hearing none, we'll move to new business, request for use, YMCA triathlon. I think this is pretty basic, understanding this is annual.
Over 40 years, yeah.
Over 40 years. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
I have a motion and a second discussion.
You doing it this year, Mayor?
It's a lot earlier.
I was planning on it until I saw the date.
Yeah.
The YMCA is taking on the Tour de la Porte event from the Healthcare Foundation, and they didn't want it to, they used to be both in August, and I think they're trying to spread those events out and make sure they have enough volunteers.
I was actually going to sign up, but I forgot that they've asked me to start, and they said I can't do both, so hopefully next year I'll be able to.
Mayor, where there's a will, there's a way. You can do a team.
So I do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I bet Mr. Kocher would do the swim part, and you could do maybe the bike or the run, and Jessica could do the other. You guys could have a team.
Yeah, I'm not getting in that water. That sounds
I don't want the
cold.
hair to get in Mr. Kocher's eyes.
Mayor,
The water part.
in all seriousness, if you go out there, many of the people, a good chunk of them are not from LaPorte. They come from all around, and they're really impressed. It's a good event for the community. Hopefully, we can get a bigger turnout this year.
So sign up June 5th, contact the YMCA. And with that, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. JB West roofing job, and I think we do have a representative from J&B. If you'd like to step to the microphone and share with us.
Good morning.
And if you could state your name and company.
My name is Kyle Crabtree from J&B West Roofing and Construction. There to replace that roof. It's got multiple layers. It's going to require a redeck, and it's going to be kind of dangerous for any traffic going through. So we want to block that road off for at least one day, from maybe 6 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night. Have it done, cleaned up, and then ready to return for public use the following day, or even that late evening.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, discussion. So you'll be looking to close Osborne from Indiana to Michigan.
Correct.
Chief Breton, Mike Fraze, any concerns? I think Mike Fraze
No,
is.
we don't use that much anyway. I think we'll be all right.
It's a little street.
Questions from the board?
I was just gonna make sure that it's not Indiana or, like a lane of either the two, Michigan or Indiana, but, so it's just Osborne.
Just Osborne. Yep.
Do you have any idea what, because you don't have any dates, it's weather permitting, do you have any idea when you guys might be able to get out and do it?
Upon approval from you guys, we would work with whoever department and both customers in order to get that scheduled. And it would be a tentative date due to weather, and we just have to coordinate back and forth to make sure that all parties are and agree upon that same day, so we could set up barriers and make sure everything goes smoothly.
Will GIS be able to park their cars in their parking lot? Is that a
Is
safe?
there an access off of Osborne?
Yeah, there's an access off of Michigan. I think they can go through the police department parking lot, but.
Yeah, they should be able to access that parking lot and park just fine. I don't anticipate any debris going over into their parking lot. If we cover the street, we're fine.
If you could make GIS aware of this potential situation and then work through the engineering department through Nick Minnick, 362-2327, and you can call and to discuss. But from a Board of Works perspective, any other discussion?
Mr. Otis, can we?
Let the schools know too, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
Let the schools know. The school buses do go through there.
Good point.
Yeah, and include transport in that, because we use it frequently too.
So, Mr. Otis, no issue with approving it without a date?
No, I think it's fine, as long as it's just, again, one day, right, Kyle?
Yeah, 1 day is all it's gonna take for that detached garage. Both homes will be getting replaced, but we don't need access to Osborne for the homes. We'll just use Michigan and Indiana for those.
Maybe we could have the engineering department just report back when you guys coordinate that, yep.
I just like amend the motion to include with engineering approval.
Yep.
Because I'd like Nick to lead the charge in setting that date. So, that work for you, Kyle?
Particular date that works best for all departments that you guys are aware of? Like,
Call and set up time with Nick, and you guys can set up, and then just give enough time frame so that you have a chance to notify everybody that needs to be notified. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Nick Otis, short-term parking lease with Norfolk Southern.
Yes, so, the city, the mayor, Bert Cook, and myself have been in, I think ongoing is a good word, ongoing negotiations with Norfolk Southern regarding the train depot and associated parking lots. I think I started working on this probably around the time I became the city attorney in 2017, so it's been ongoing for a long time. City had long-term leases with Norfolk Southern, and those expired, and we've done continuing short-term leases as we try to reach some sort of agreement or resolution on this. This is just continuing the parking lease through end of June, so ask for that approval.
Do I have a motion?
So moved with just one quick question. So on
Well, here, let's go ahead and
Second.
Mr. Kosher.
Well, I guess it was really, my question was regarding the fact that it's got a prior mayor's name. I don't know if that makes any difference.
We'll cross that out.
Okay.
Yep.
There's another one as well on the other, I think. But this is just for the parking, it's not for those buildings?
We already have a lease for the building, yeah.
Why
The
aren't
parking
they tied
lot's
in
is-
together?
Well, it's a separate parcel. And they were signed at separate times, so.
So
this is
it
to
just
a-
doesn't necessarily make sense that we're approving this when it goes back to January 1 and will
Because
end.
for the lease for the
Yeah.
building got approved, and then this did not, so we.
It didn't get approved by Norfolk
No,
Southern?
no, by us. Norfolk Southern asked us to approve this, so.
But this is for our LEAP office to park.
Correct.
And Mr. Cook, this would align though, because this goes to June 30th, 2021, which also aligns with the extended lease that we have from Norfolk Southern, correct?
That's correct, Mayor.
For the buildings.
For the buildings.
Is that is that in negotiations right now and will be brought up anytime? I mean, it seems like that's pretty pressing considering that's less than 3
Right.
months out, or about 3 months out. Or
They,
is-
I'm trying to be diplomatic here.
I'll speak to it so you don't
ahead.
have to, you know, it's been ridiculous that it's taken this long, but we do have, they've made an offer. We think we've made progress. Again, despite the fact that the city of LaPorte has done all the improvements to the building to make it what it is today. There's an important factor of those buildings and the work that the city did that I think it's important that it stay in the hands of our community versus the railroad. So I believe we will have an agreement possibly as early as the end of this week or next week.
Oh, good.
That's how close we are. But like I said, this has been going on for some time. But I think we finally made a point with Norfolk and Southern that they agree with, and that hopefully we can put this deal behind us. Is that fair, Mr. Cook?
It is, Mayor. Yeah, we have traded numerous offers back and forth, so just so you're aware, there's been this ongoing dialogue, as everyone's referenced, for a long time, but it's heated up recently.
Mr. Romine, there was, back in the 90s, letters from Conrail, which is now Norfolk Southern, that they were
Right.
going to give this building to the city. For some reason, that was never memorialized. Conrail got sold. The city invested federal money, some of their own money. Now Norfolk Southern wants the city to pay the fair market value of the improvements that the city has made, which we don't think is fair. So we're trying to figure that out. If we walk away, we may take all of the improvements out, and they can have the building back how it was 20 years ago.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Jen Knoll.
Good morning. First, I've got the Fair Labor Standards Act exemption update. So we recently did an audit on our salaried positions. There are positions within the city that weren't consistently, I guess, classified as exempt versus non-exempt. So we had some administrative positions, salary non-exempt, and some were salary exempt. So we wanted to make sure that we audited that and got us all on the same page. So that salary threshold is a salary of $35,568 that would qualify for that white collar exemption. In addition, we do have to do a test based on the job duties of each position to see if that would qualify for a white collar exemption. So I provided you with an Excel spreadsheet that kind of lists the positions, the salaries, and then the exemption that those positions qualify for. I did work with Nick on this just to make sure that we had kind of our ducks in a row. So just asking for your approval to move these positions that were already paid a salary to salary exempt, meaning they would not get paid overtime, and they would be exempt from overtime essentially. And then I also attached all of the job descriptions with that update on those as well.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
Next, we've got the NavRx client service agreement. So I know we've talked about the captive that the city is a part of for our insurance plan. So this is part of the captive group as well, which is called APTA. NavRx is a data mining tool for prescriptions. So we've already approved the data mining for our major medical claims. This is working with our pharmacy benefit manager, which is Magellan RX. And so this would allow APTA to take a look at the data analytics related to those prescription claims and then provide us feedback with that. So what they're looking for when they're doing the data mining is contract guarantees, making sure that Magellan RX is actually following through with what our contract states and that we're not overpaying for certain prescriptions. At the end of the year, the contracted items are then reconciled and the city would receive any funding back that we are owed based on those contract guarantees. It's a per claim rebate guarantee. And then additionally, this identifies alternate funding sources for specialty medications. If you're aware, specialty meds are very expensive, and a lot of that cost goes back on the member. So the NavRx program assists in finding other funding sources, whether that be grants or other prescription rebate programs that the member could utilize. So asking for your permission or your authorization to move forward with this. This would be signed by the clerk treasurer, Courtney Perthun.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion?
So with the, is the data mining purely looking at sort of utilization and costs and potential to reduce costs, or is it also looking at any kind of non-personal but data on what's actually being used that is then kind of sold back to another party?
Right, well, it's looking at specific claims. So this, the APTA care coordinators do have access to personal health information. The HR department or anybody at the city would not. So there would be an active outreach related to the data that they find. So if there are also, members who are on a lot of prescriptions, they would also be looking at that as well. And if it's something that if they qualify for another program, whether that means, compounding medications or getting them on different medications to reduce the amount of prescriptions that they're on, then this team would work directly with that physician as well, the member's
Okay,
physician.
so obviously that would have to be somewhat personal, right? To know who the person is to find a
Right.
less
But
expensive option.
I don't get information on who receives that outreach.
And because I think I noticed in there that there's, any data that would go, anywhere else would all be, non-personal, be anonymous
Correct.
data.
Yeah, we could get group aggregate summaries from, the city's perspective so that we can plan accordingly for future years, but we do not get personal health information.
Okay. Is there any, so obviously there's potential cost savings, but is there any, if the data is used in any way by third parties, like is there any payment that comes back?
Yeah, so at the end of the year, when NavRx and the APTA team reconciles this, then there's potential for us to receive monies from prescription rebates, and then also, the contract guarantees. So if we were being charged more than what the contract that we have states with Magellan RX, then we get that back at the end of the year.
They're essentially doing an audit of Magellan is
Right.
what it sounds like to me, or they're the watchdog to make sure that everything stays in line, and
Correct.
so we're paying somebody to make sure that they
Yeah,
follow their
and-
contract.
Correct,
It's kind of
yeah.
crummy to have to do that.
In this day and age, it's
Yeah.
important.
I get it, but
So I do have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
And lastly, on the agenda, we've been working with our partner, John Salisbury, who's the financial advisor for the city's 457 plan, which is the voluntary retirement program offered to employees. We've been with Mass Mutual for quite some time. It just makes financial sense to move to a different program in the One America program. So I'd like to invite Mr. Salisbury up, and he can kind of give you a brief overview of what we're looking at and kind of how we'll be moving with the transition upon your approval for that.
Welcome, Mr. Salisbury.
Thank you, Mayor.
Good to see you.
Good to see everybody. Thanks for the opportunity. Also just partnering with Jen and Courtney and Joni and Dana over the years. A lot of help behind the scenes. So also thank you to the Board of Works for the opportunity to come today. So we've partnered with the city for the last 11 years. We started out with Hartford, and then the Hartford sold to Mass Mutual, and then now Mass Mutual has now just been bought by Empower. So there's no call to action at this point, but what it does is it allows us to kind of put the clutch in and say, is there an opportunity to improve the plan? Why haven't we done that over the years? One of the biggest factors is there's a fixed account in the platform, and that fixed account was at 3%, which is very appealing for folks that say that don't want to take risk with dollars, and they just want to park it on the sideline and get a fixed rate of 3%. So, but as we've come into the change, and also a lot of changes in the industry, we're going through severe fee compression in the industry over the last 10 years, it makes sense that we really open the lid and say, hey, can the plan be improved? Things that we don't want to go away from is personal service, one-on-one planning. The city allows for employees to come into the office, and we can do individual planning of whether it be retirement planning, education planning. There's no additional charge to the employees for that. So all those things that we've done in the past, we want to continue to do. But the shift here is to say, okay, does it make sense? And I would suggest that it makes sense to move from Mass Mutual at this point and move over to One America. Okay? So the big thing is the cost savings to me. And then also the website support and some of that experience that the employees are going to have there. So as we transition over, I've supplied to you in a folder a cost savings report, kind of comparing the two plans next to each other. So there's three different ways that the plan is, employees are charged, or the city is charged for the plan. Number one are those billable charges. So the employees on their statements, they see a $5 per quarter charge, so $20 a year hard dollar cost. That was put in place a couple years ago. simply because Mass Mutual said, if you want us to keep the 3% fixed rate where it is, we have to offset that cost somewhere. So they've been charging that $5 per quarter. As we go over to One America, there would be no hard dollar cost. So that's a nice thing that would go away. The second is the investment cost.
John, I'm sorry, really quick. How long is that guarantee that we would not have that participation fee? Is there any date, or is it, so we all jump over to One America, could they change that?
Yeah, so I'll maybe yield the floor here to Jeff Eisman. He is from One America. He's here with
Okay.
me today. So Jeff, would you like to address that?
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you for the time. So for the life of the contract, that we would guarantee the price?
Okay, thank you.
Is that
What is the
participant?
life of the contract?
So as long as you guys remain with One America, we will maintain the same price.
Has that been borne by the individuals or by the city?
Individuals.
The individuals.
$5 a quarter, I think John spoke to, correct? Does that mean that the 3% fixed is no longer gonna be there, or it is still in place?
Correct. So we're changing the way the fixed account is set up. So through 2022, we're gonna guarantee 2% or better. And then after that, we're gonna give you guys, so it's 100 basis points is 1%. So 75 basis points above whatever the current market rate is that we're paying out. So as rates continue to increase, which we believe they will, that's gonna give you guys a rate hypothetically above 3% in the future.
But it is 2%, not 3.
Correct.
As a minimum.
As a minimum.
Right.
So 2 or better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good, great question, thank you. So so one is that billable charge that to your, Mr. Kozer, the question, the employees see that comes out of their account. But the thought there is, that second piece is that investment cost. So that investment cost, right now, the city employees, it's called a wrap fee in the industry. They're paying about 75 basis points. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Investment cost is going to be the cost to the mutual funds, the internal expense of the mutual fund. So right now, the plan is an older plan. So the plan has not been updated, and it has old retail class shares inside of there. So the internal expense of those mutual funds are higher than what they could be today. So here's the big cost savings. By transitioning the asset-based fee to that investment cost, that internal expense goes from 95 basis points in the internal expense of a mutual fund down to an average of about 1.15%, so 15 basis points. That is a huge savings when you take that, times 3.5 million. Right? So the third part is the asset charge, and that is that wrap fee that I just started to go to. So currently it's about 75 basis points. Employees see that. Now the reason it says 64 basis points on the right side there, that is the weighted average, because the fixed monies aren't being charged that fee. So let's just, for ease of numbers, it's 75 basis points. As we go over into the newer plan, that weighted average is going to be about 0.41%. So the whole wrap fee is going down. The internal expense of the mutual funds are going down considerably, and then also doing away from that hard dollar cost. That savings is about $38,000 a year to the city employees. So speaking, I heard cost being talked over earlier. That's a big dollar amount. It's about $31 per month to an employee or a participant, and about $475 a year to a participant.
So,
questions on cost?
yeah, thanks for going over all that, because I mean, certainly like the various charges, obviously there's a big difference in fees. So earlier when you were talking about the 2% versus, what the minimum 2% is, what's going to be above the 2%? Are these the investment costs, asset charges? Is that where the additional amount over 2% comes from, or is that separate from that computation, above 2%?
Separate up.
Separate, okay.
So the fixed dollar account does not have the charge, that asset-based fee.
Gotcha, that's, okay, all right.
So that is separate. That charge is only being charged on the invested dollars.
Got it, okay,
So
thank you.
on the right side where you see 0.64%, that's because that's weighting in. The charge is 75 basis points, 0.75, but the fixed monies are not being charged that. So that's the reason it's recorded at 64 basis points.
Okay, Yeah, that's,
When are we looking to make the move? Are we gonna do it like because I've seen these changes happen in companies and they are not pretty.
Yeah.
So is this gonna be like at the end of the quarter, halfway through the year, when are you looking to do this? So that things, because the asset changing from one to the other and making sure that all of that is reconciled and everything's adequately transferred, especially when we're talking about other people's money.
It's good. So
It's concerning.
Yeah, so I'm very confident in One America's process. So we talk about what's next. So, one thing that Jen and I have spoken on is communicating often and communicating early. So one of the things that Jeff and I will be doing is hosting 4 Zoom calls, one dedicated just to the police department, one just to the fire department, and then 2 open sessions. So for anybody, civilian employees can join, but also any police or fire that weren't able to join those original Zooms, they'll be able to jump on there as well for different shifts, whatever the case may be. But to answer your question directly, as soon as the we have board approval and city approval, then we would start that process. The dollars we'd anticipate right around June, probably June or July, would be a timeline. And on the far back right of your file, you have a timeline here that we've laid out of what we think would take place and when it would take place. So it talks a little bit about what's next.
And I see the number of plan participants, the assumption is 80.
About 84, 85 right now.
How many is that of full-time? That seems like that's a good majority, or
It's about a little less than.
is it less than half that's available? How do we promote
Yeah.
the remaining portion of our employees to, finance in here for their retirement?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So that is a goal of mine over the next, say, 5 years, is to increase participation through education, being accessible at, one thing Jen has done a phenomenal job is this enrollment meeting that didn't used to take place in the city. It does today, well attended, so that makes me accessible in a central location for employees. Also promoting and getting employees to take advantage of the one-on-one planning in the office. They're welcome to do those things and come in. So, but I think to your point and your question is, in today's world, being accessible via Zoom, just a couple weeks ago, we held firefighters in the fire department. We held a Zoom to answer some common questions that we were getting as well. So
I think that has to be one of our goals, is to really promote for all our employees. We talk family first, and we want our family to be financially safe as they move forward, and would love to see the increased participation.
that's a goal of mine. And the second goal of mine would be for the plan would be to educate employees more on the Roth component. So talking about saving dollars moving forward and being able to pull money out when they go to retire, the Roth allows them to use those dollars potentially tax-free. So, yeah.
Don't worry, Jen, we'll make sure it's a goal of yours, so that's,
How often do we do open enrollments, or are we doing it quarterly, or?
Open enrollment is
Once a year. And do people have to sign something if they opt out or not to participate?
in health insurance, they do, but not.
Not
in
through the,
voluntary.
okay.
Do we have an automatic enrollment when someone starts, that it automatically starts at a certain percentage?
We talked about that, but we don't at this time. We also have the pension through the state.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Jen and I discussed that about 2 weeks ago. That was an option we talked about. She said, at this point, we'd prefer to just stay, allow the employee to elect.
Okay.
Make sure it's well-educated and what those plans are and what the options are.
Okay. So a couple questions on, I was kind of looking over the blackout period, and I imagine you've kind of been through these types of rollovers before. Does that blackout period, which is just a hair under a month, is it pretty consistent that you're able to really nail that blackout period, or does it sometimes creep into an additional, week or two, which for employees, for anyone, can be very concerning when you don't see your money and can't do anything, can't make moves with it?
So I'll speak initially to it, and then I'll let Jeff take that second half of that question. So I've experienced it when we came from nationwide over into the plan. It was probably about 5 business days. Now, that entire time, the money wasn't out of the market. So money's come over, and it was probably about 2 days the monies were out of the market. But it went extremely smooth. So, but I'm going to yield the floor to Jeff, let him address that further.
So as far as the blackout, so the longest a blackout could take is 1 month. Typically, we average around 7 days. So It's
7 business days?
7 business days.
Oh, okay,
correct.
so when I went over that, it looked to
Yep.
me like it was
Yeah,
gonna be,
no, it's,
almost 4 weeks.
And the reason is because, the purpose of a blackout is, so we wanna make sure when everything transfers over, we get correct data from Mass Mutual. So we wanna make sure before, while it's kind of in that week when it's gonna be transferred over, there's no changes being made at the participant level from beneficiaries or anything like that. So that when the plan actually comes over, we're gonna verify all the information that we received, census files, all that data is correct before we take out a blackout. And as we get loan files and things like that from Mass Mutual, making sure that when we take your plan live, it's 100% ready to go.
Do you think, will it be the same funds or the same assets, or will it be different because of different companies, right? I know sometimes there'll be different packages that different, whether it's mutual funds or whatever, have set up for whether it's One America, Mass Mutual, or will there be some kind of mapping from, if you've got money here, it's going to go to this?
Yeah, of course, exactly, great question. So, one, these are both open architecture plans, so we're not just going to One America funds. This is gonna be a wide variety of funds that we can choose from. And so one of the things that I will be doing with One America is to one, make sure, can we improve the funds? Are there better investments available? Number two, if there's large holdings in one fund or another, what is the most, can we offer that same fund, so they're leaving the same fund going right back into it, or a very close similar option to that. So that's my job to do. And then also to add on to that, we also have Mesero Financial with One America, is a third-party fiduciary that is looking at the funds on a regular basis. They create a police report for us. So if a fund is trending in the wrong direction, it brings it to our attention, and also even we'll start to replace those funds. And that's part of the annual review I do with the city, is bringing that to the attention of Jen and the group, and they make a decision if we're gonna replace funds on a regular basis, so. Yeah.
Interesting.
That was one thing that was not happening, and we've done that consistently. Annually, we've met with the city of LaPorte to update them on the plan.
Is there an audit done of this plan? Do we hire an auditor to audit the 457B plan?
City side, we have not in the past.
Is that normal?
No, you're not required as a
No,
government.
because and if you're under, you said we're only at like 84 people, so it's well under 250, so it's not required, correct?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. I just was curious about that, because a lot of times they test also the eligibility of the employee and if, everything's matched appropriately and whatnot, but.
Yeah. So no, I think the other part of this too, as we talk about this, the transition is not motivated by transaction costs or anything to Edward Jones myself. Actually, there's no benefit to us. It's simply a cost savings to the city of LaPorte. So there's not a revenue being produced by this from One America to Edward Jones at all. So this is a good thing for the city employees. So.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Is this something that we should consider looking over more frequently, since maybe this only came up because Mass Mutual was changing or being bought out by somebody else? Like, how often would you normally look at this to see if there's something better out there?
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Rooney. We do this on an annual basis as I meet with the city. But as I mentioned earlier, one of the reasons we stayed with Mass as long as we stayed.
For the
is that
fixed
because interest rates were so low, it was really hard to beat, and costs were not that much different. So now it's really accelerated just in the last couple of years here. So.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, that cost savings on those expenses, I mean, for the employees.
worth it
will
alone.
Build up, I mean, over time, tremendous. So
Yeah.
If I think about it on an annual basis, that's a big savings per employee.
Absolutely. So let's get more of those employees involved, and with that, do I have a motion to approve? Move to One America?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Finished with thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Jerry Jackson.
I've got, pay request number 2 and change order 2, in front of the board for our Lakeside relocation project. Change order 2 is the, cost to modify some air relief valves. Air relief, as you, use it with a greater pump system, as you pump wastewater, Tends to accumulate in high points in the system, so you need air relief valves to keep the system running. Because of utilities were mismarked in our original, investigation before the project was drawn up, two of the air release valves have to go into the street, and several others have to be moved or have to be modified to allow them to be in the floodplain. The total cost of the change order number 2 is $22,523.20. That, if I add the change order 1 and change order 2 together, we're at 3.3% of the project total, which is okay, but not, we're still kind of early in the project. We're 24% in. I wish that number was a little lower, but it is what it is. We need to keep the project rolling. So I recommend approving change order number 2.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Second.
Jerry, I'm just curious as to whether or not if the utilities had been appropriate labeled at the beginning, would we be spending this money anyway on the air valves?
Very likely, because there wasn't room in the location we wanted to put these air relief valves because of existing utilities, and we just found it out late, and consequently we're doing a change order instead of it being
Part of.
in the street already.
Okay, so it's not avoidable, it wouldn't have been avoidable.
I missed that.
It would not have been avoidable, the cost.
Probably not. The utilities in there are, kind of go all over the place and are not on one side of the street or the other, and they're not well documented, and, that caused the problem, but yeah, we probably couldn't avoid the cost.
I do have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Jerry Lewis Baking?
Pay request number 2, for Lakeside is in the amount of $271, $514, and I misread that, $271,514.25. That brings the project to 24% completion of the $1.6 million project. They've got most of the sewer mains, or all of the sewer mains in most of the laterals. They're starting to put in pump stations now. The electricians, MCOR has been doing quite a bit of work getting in the houses and getting electrical services out to the grinder pump. So that's been a big push lately. It's, a lot of those homes are not occupied during the winter, so it's been a lot of logistics getting people into the house, or the electricians into the house to do that work. Glad it's proceeding. I think we're doing okay. They're doing a good job contacting people, getting in the house, and it's proceeding well. I'd recommend approval pay request number 2.
Well, we prefer your original numbers. We will take, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion?
Just for a little humor, I wanted to point out that you actually said Jerry Lewis Baking.
Jerry Lewis Baking, that just was consistent there. All right, I do have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
That was with all due respect, Mayor.
Yes.
You can say anything
I
and
missed
say with
Lewis
all due
Baking
respect.
on the permit on the project, on the agenda. Should we do that one now?
Yes, Jerry, let's do Lewis Baking.
Lewis Baking is a long-term customer of ours. They've always been responsive when there's been issues. They're working on some modifications of their wastewater treatment plant to do a better job and make the facilities more maintainable. Don't have any issues with them at all. I recommend renewal of their wastewater discharge permit.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Thank you, Jerry. Beth West?
I got one more item.
Oh, I apologize.
This is, I'm sorry to jump in. This is, pay request number 1 for the digester mixing system. This project was bid last, I think in November last year. And EJ White's been on the site working on it. I sent some pictures over to the board via email. They've installed the 2 large mixing pumps, and associated piping, started doing work in the basement. There was a couple, or 4 borings through the 12-inch reinforced concrete walls and the inner and outer walls. So that was kind of a big deal. They're doing real nice work. They suggested changing the type of pipe from ductile iron to stainless steel, and that'll give us a longer lasting project at no additional cost. It makes their job a little easier to install, so that was good for everybody. The amount is $48,551 in the pay request. Total job is $105,987. So that's worth 54% after this pay request. And I recommend approval of the pay request number 1.
Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you. Now I'm done.
Thank you, Jerry. Beth West?
Morning. After the last Board of Works meeting, I was contacted by INDOT. They had received notification from the Indiana Attorney General that they needed to change some things in our Public Mass Transportation Fund grant that you signed back in December. There were only 2 minor changes, however, they had to reprint the entire contract and I need new signatures now. I just gave you the 2 pages where there were changes, and then the 2 pages that were the old, so you can compare. They're very minor. The first one was on page 1 in section 2. They modified the verbiage and just made it so the dates, the current dates were showing and not to have a redemption. And then a comma was added in that same statement, so when they made the changes, that comma went away. The other was on page 3, section 9, letter C, the web address was incorrect and they updated that. Those are the only 2 changes, but I do need to have a new contract signed.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Tom Casey?
Thank you, Mayor. This is regarding a consulting contract with SEH not to exceed $5,000. And this is for the acquisition of a possible EDA grant for the Boyd Boulevard Sewer Separation Project, to complete that project, which is approximately $2.5 million. We do qualify very well for the grant, and this is just to get additional help to get that completed.
What's the deadline? Oh, I'm sorry. I'll make a motion
Do I
that
have a
we
motion?
approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
What's the deadline for the application?
I don't know. Nick, would you know what the deadline is?
It's a rolling grant application, so there's no deadline necessarily.
Oh, okay.
But, the dollars will eventually go away to other projects, so time is of the essence on the EDA.
First come, first serve is what you're saying?
Further questions?
How much are we applying for or likely to get? I mean, because we're spending $5,000 for help on the application, so how much money are we likely to get from the grant application?
Between $500,000 and $1 million.
Oh, that might be
That's well worth it. Further discussion?
Well, just, so, you mentioned we qualify very well. I mean, you feel like the risk is very low that we would spend this money and not get?
You know, Mark, I can't answer that because I haven't done it before. Nick, I mean, we've had two separate phone calls with representatives from who processed the EDA grant, so they're helping us through this with our consultant, Glenn at SEH. I think we meet all of the requirements, short of not having a comprehensive plan. That's probably the only one that we're off on. So I believe that we do qualify very well for it, and I think it's an expense worth going forward with.
And we've had, I can't remember, but we've had quite a, I mean, we've dealt with SEH.
I was just going to say,
Right?
Yes.
SEH was the designer of the project. This was a redevelopment project, and we were able to fund and build one phase of the project, and then the EDA grant would complete the rest of the project. So as the designer, they're kind of uniquely qualified, and also they have an economic development group who has submitted EDA grants, not necessarily to NERC, not a lot have gone through NERC yet, but in other parts of the country. So they have a proven record of success on EDA grants, and again, with their kind of intimate knowledge of the project, it makes sense to have them, get this done and help us just wrap it up and make sure that we're doing it the way NERC and EDA grants should be done. It's not something we do every day.
Okay.
And
I
I
just
will
want to make sure, like, memory served me correct, that we've dealt with, yeah, I thought we did, but want to confirm that, so.
and I've dealt with Brian Shook and Dan Bowditch, who actually will be meeting later today, and they've been fantastic from an assessment perspective. Mr. Otis has helped us by setting up a partnership for the 39 North Conservancy District to see what makes sense if we were to annex or to discuss annexation of water and sewer clients potentially up there, and have really been helpful in that process. So I do have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Mary Ann Richards.
It's that time of year for the homeowner repair program to start the next funding round. And I'm prepared to solicit quotes, and I am asking for board authorization to do that. The dates are to have the quotes turned in April 19th, have them opened April 20th at the Board of Works meeting, and then awarded May 4th. And I have 2 houses participating.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. And Mary Ann, how much is in that fund that for this year?
Probably about 100,000.
It's just for 2 homes, you said?
Yes.
That you're soliciting the
Right,
funds?
and this would be CDBG funds.
Is it for just like a contractor for the jobs, or?
I would solicit a contractor for electrical work, plumbing, roofing, and lead hazard reduction.
And if we don't spend the entire 100,000 on these 2 homes,
Then I could save it and roll it into next year.
or could that be used for demolition?
If I did a substantial amendment and advertised and had public hearing, but I don't know how much will be left, only because of the lead hazard reduction work. That's expensive.
So the homes, the 2 homes that you're working on, what work are they having done?
Electrical repairs, plumbing repairs, roofing, and lead hazard reduction.
So in other words, we probably couldn't do or put repairs into any more than 2 houses because of the expense that these 2 are gonna require, or there weren't others that
There
applied?
weren't others that made it through the vetting process for this round. I had probably 40 applications. However, the majority of the applications were incomplete. They didn't provide, I couldn't do income verifications. because they didn't supply all the income information. So I ended up with two good ones,
How many did we work on last year?
3,
So this is about normal.
yeah. And I'm in the process of vetting for the next upcoming round.
Okay.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Thank you,
Thank you.
Mary Ann. Nick Minnick.
I believe the first item I have on the agenda is a proposal for construction services for Monroe Manor sewer separation. This contract essentially takes what we've previously done on the first couple phases of Monroe Manor and gets it ready to bid, and then also carries through into construction. The one thing that I really like about this contract with that, well, two things. With Avonmarsh, the designer of the project has moved from Nice to Avonmarsh. So we'll have the designer of the project having some oversight, but also the resources of another firm that has a second set of eyes and can look at things. The other thing that I really like about this project and this proposal is Avonmarsh has been willing to work with us. As you know, I've hired a technician in order to train that technician. A really great way to do that is have them work with a consultant that has a lot of experience. So we were able to get to a 4.8% of the projected project cost for construction oversight, which is a very low number. Anything below, say, an 8% is a pretty good number for construction oversight. And that's because not only will we be getting construction oversight, but we're going to get some supervised training of our technician on a field, in the field, on a real project. So I think it's a good proposal, and I would recommend approval. The other thing that this does is, if we keep to this timeline, it has, depending on how the project bids and where the numbers come in, it has Monroe Manor potentially getting completed this year. Again, and that's going to be dependent on how the bids come in. We don't want to necessarily put ourselves in a difficult situation early in the bond issuance, and we want to make sure that we have enough funds to cover all of the projects on that list. But if things do bid well, we are looking at completion of Monroe Manor as early as the end of the year.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, and that's the best news, that this will complete the Monroe Manor subdivision and
Pending good bids.
yes, so that's the goal, and I know Jerry's on the phone or on the line here too, so we are excited about this.
Very much. My phone rings a lot from the residents out there who say, hey, this looks really good what you did first phase. When am I gonna get mine? So, yeah, I'm very pleased this is gonna go forward.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Now exciting to see a local builder continuing to add.
I only have exciting news for my first two areas. So, really excited to have Mitch Ficus Builders here. They're ready to start the next phase of construction on their Whispering Meadows development. We talk about housing a lot, and just really appreciate a builder that is kind of tenacious and just keeps going on a project. It started a number of years back, and we just kind of approve these phases as they're ready to build out the next phase. Helps them to not have to put a whole lot into infrastructure on the front end, even though they are investing a lot even with one phase. So very appreciative. I do have the plat. It has already been through Plan Commission. It goes to Board of Works, and then once they have sewer and water approvals, they can get started and start building some more houses. So again,
Is it possible to have Mr. Ficus here comment on his great partnership, how much he appreciates the city and his partnership? But we appreciate you and thank you for all you've done, and
I contribute a lot to your coffers, you know. I said I contribute a lot to your coffers.
We appreciate that as well, but the quality home you're building and,
You know, we attract a lot of people from outside the city. In fact, the majority of our customers are from the county or even outside the county. And so we're bringing those residents into the city. It's a quality neighborhood. We're very proud of it. This project, you know, we don't know what's going to happen in the housing industry. You see prices, lumber prices have skyrocketed. Everything else is going up. Jerry can tell you that the price of pipe not only has gone up because of the winter storm, they stopped production of a resin that you make pipe with. So there's a backlog, it's hard to get pipe, things like that. And nationwide, there's a shortage of lots. But we built well over 100 homes there, and we just keep chipping away. We hope our absorption rate continues, but, you know, we don't know with these times. The good thing is that mortgage rates are very low, historic lows, so now's the best time to build a house, I can just say that. We've worked with Tim at the water department. Of course, we work closely with Jerry and Nick. You know, they've been involved with this project for the last month or so they've all got copies of it. They get to comment about it. And so with your approval, this meets the specifications of the city of LaPorte. You're getting new infrastructure that's built better than what's been done in the past. You have stormwater separation. You don't have to go in and do it. So overall, I think it's a great asset to the city.
well, we appreciate all that you've done and thank you. You're a great partner out there. And how many homes total?
On this phase, it'll be 16 additional homes, and we expect to have 220 when we're finished with the project.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Oh, yes, Jess Romine needs to abstain from this. I will second that. Further discussion?
No, it looks very good.
All those in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 2-0. Member Romine will abstain. Thank you, Mitch, for all the great work.
Does she sign the plat? I don't know if she has. Does she have to sign it?
No, she can't. If
She can't sign it?
Pardon?
Can't sign it if you're abstaining from it.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
I can still record it though, right?
Is that okay from, okay.
Right.
I'll talk to the auditor, so.
And Mr. Ficus, would you like to introduce the better half of your team?
Yes, that's my son, William Ficus.
Wow.
And my wife Carol, that keeps me in line and doesn't let me cuss the city out, so.
Thank you both for being here as well, and we certainly appreciate the work. So this will begin, the next home will begin when?
Well, we're waiting for our final approvals. We've sent the application to Jerry. We've sent an application to Tim for water. We have an application in to MS4. Pipe was delivered today because they have to take delivery on it. And I have the manhole structures ordered. And once those come in, we'll be starting it. But I haven't got a delivery date on those yet, so.
So approximately?
2 weeks.
Great. Thank you.
Mitch, do you have buyers already signed contracts, or do you build them and then they come?
We have buyers that sign contracts. Actually, William sold 2 houses this week, so. We have what, 2 lots left in the?
Yeah, we have 2 lots left, and we have 2 prospective buyers interested once the road's built in.
Yeah. So a lot of times we'll start the house before the roads and the infrastructure is complete. So we've done that. Every time we do a new phase, we always have one started before we're finished, so.
There's just as much interest or demand as there are for existing homes. It seems like those are flying off the market. You've got the same amount of demand, it seems like?
Usually we build 7 or 8 a year. Last year we finished 4, but we're finishing like 4 or 5 in the first half of this year. So, you know, at 7 or 8, we'll see how that goes. I don't know. I just don't know what the market's gonna be.
Thank you. First Street paving pay application.
Yeah, it's, there was a typo on there. It's not First Street, it's our 2020 first contract. This is the Walsh and Kelly contract. We've kind of been dragging our feet and struggling to get this one closed out, partially because we needed to go out and field verify some quantities, and it's been a little hard to do that up until last week. So we've been working with Walsh and Kelly. We have almost everything field verified. I didn't want them to have to keep waiting for payments, and some of this work happened kind of mid-year last year. So I did want to have a partial closeout of the project with the quantities that we have been able to verify and make sure that the numbers are 100% correct. And then also reduce the retainage down to 5% instead of 10%, just to really get closer to that final closeout of the project. So the payment would be in the amount of $248,713.19. And again, that brings us nearly to the completion of the project.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. You've been happy with Walsh and Kelly's work?
Very quality work, very quality work. We're a little over on quantities as far as the contract, but the quality has been excellent, and there's been a lot of extra work to make sure that our streets are being re-crowned properly and making sure that where we need wedging and everything to keep with our existing curbs, because a lot of this worked within existing curb lines, making sure that all matches. So they've really done an excellent job for us on this project.
Further discussion? I do have a motion and a second. All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Thank you, Nick. Jessica Bruder?
So this is the updated licensing agreement with Cablin's. We had just a couple of minor changes that I'll walk you through. In section 7, there was just a typo, so that was fixed. In section 8, our contact at Cablin's had some issues with the way it was worded, so we fixed that. Now it says that the client has the right to sell the remaining inventory should we terminate the contract, or the city can buy it at cost. So basically just gets rid of that liability for them. And then in Appendix 6, it also clarified that in addition to all the other products they can print, they can also engrave on the Yetis that they sell in the store. So those were the only changes.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'm abstaining.
I will second that. Member Romine will abstain from this based on the relationship with Cablin's. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 2-0. Again, Ms. Romine will abstain. And I would just like to say thank you to Cablin's. They're a great community partner. And with Rural King and Cablin's on the west side, we have things happening there. And the west side is on the move. And two great quality companies there that will have a lot of business coming their way. So, great news. Jerry Jackson, letters and numbers, storm sewer separation.
Are you guys just ratifying?
That item is left over from last week, the last two items. I didn't even notice them down there. That's left over from last week, those two.
But are you supposed to ratify?
I think, Mr. Otis, do we need to, we approved it, but this is the ratification of that?
Because I abstained at the last meeting and Mr. Kosher wasn't here.
So, yeah, we do need approval. Jerry, I think yes, correct.
Official approval, do I have a motion on both? Can we do both at the same time?
Yep.
Do I have a motion to approve both the phosphorus removal design service and the letters and numbers storm sewer separation design services?
So moved.
I'm abstaining.
You're abstaining. I'll second that. Discussion?
The only question I had was just in and around the Torino pond part. So it looks like part of this is to evaluate the impact that the new lines would have on that pond?
Mr. Jackson, can you hear Mr. Kosher?
Yeah, that's correct. There's quite the Regency area is tributary to that pond, as is 18th Street down to the barn at Kessling Park, and then also the Carr Streets, Corvette, Tornado, all those, that area, all the stormwater is tributary to that pond. So we've never had issues with high level, and the water percolates in the ground well. But I think it's prudent to study the pond to make sure that it has the available capacity to add the letters and numbers area into it. We are looking at obtaining some more land to the south. Hopefully that'll work out. But they'll be doing borings and determining if the percolation rate, how fast the water goes into the groundwater, and making a determination if there's sufficient capacity.
So if, so the stormwater would go there, but would not, as long as everything looks good regarding the testing, it would stay there in that area. If it doesn't
Correct.
look good, then would there
Correct,
be
that's-
then additional storm sewer?
I'm sorry, I missed that last statement.
So if the percolation test and the boring test that they do don't come back with, positive information, would there then be storm sewer from that area in some way that would take any overflow, or how, what would we do from there?
Yes, there would be additional facilities needed. It's very difficult. That's in LaPorte, because you think about where's the nearest stream in that area, and there really isn't one. The nearest stream is all the way south of the airport, the start of Kingsbury Creek. We'll have to evaluate. It'll either be, it could potentially be a stormwater pumping station that pumps all the way out there, or perhaps to the combined sewer system. We're also working with NDOT to build a storm sewer on Indiana Avenue. That could also be an outlet for this project. So if an outlet is needed, that requires some additional study to figure out the best way to do that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I just want to make sure Mr. Kosher's clear on percolation, so Jerry, if you could do that.
And boring.
LaPorte soils are very sandy, part of the reason we don't have a stream is because the water, the stormwater percolates through the grass and, the green spaces down into the groundwater. We have a great deal of groundwater for that reason also. So we're kind of blessed with sandy soils in that respect. We can also use green infrastructure like infiltration, percolation, fairly effectively because we have those soils. So that when we separate sewers, like the letters and numbers of the street, part of that is going to have green infrastructure where we'll infiltrate the water down into the groundwater. Other areas we're using it and planning on using it more because it's cost effective and good for the environment.
Perfect. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 2-0. Member Romine will abstain on this. So with that, we will move to other business, and I think the main point is, if you have not seen the federal rescue program, COVID rescue program, the city of LaPorte is expected to receive $11.6 million with, I think, limited requirements on those dollars. So we have to be very careful how we spend that. My goal is to make an impact for the residents of our community. It's a great opportunity, so people may politically have their thoughts and ideas on the money and how it's spent, but I don't think we can be hypocrites and complain about the federal plan and accept money. So I'm all in. I think I'm ready. We're excited as a team to have an opportunity to develop these dollars and maybe use those as dollars to partner with other nonprofits, again, really to make impact in the city of LaPorte. One of my focuses, and I think the community's focus, is housing in some fashion. So it's a great opportunity. Further discussion? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.